I didn't plan on making this today, but as I was sitting downstairs reading, I had this idea and this thought, and I wanted to share it with you. So this is going to be a let's talk about something episode, but it's going to be a little bit more of a train of thought, an unstructured train of thought, because it's something that I'm currently learning and wrestling with. And I do apologize, I'm drinking a smoothie, but not all of the seeds are completely pulverized, so if I'm like awkwardly gnawing on something, it's the seeds in my mouth. So what we're talking about today, or I at least want to kind of wrestle through, verbally process through with you guys, is relationship mentality. And not necessarily during, but leading up to it. So it's like relationship mentality and singleness. I could do a whole video on being single. I was single, I technically still am, single for, oh gosh, in July it'll be 3 years. I mean, I did date somebody at the beginning of the year, but given the brevity of that, is that the right word? The briefness of that relationship, I just kind of considered a little blimp, a little bump on my singleness timeline. I guess I want to start out by saying that it's important to be single. I think it's very, very important to be single. And to spend time by yourself and to get to know who you are when you don't have somebody else to be attached to. I'm not saying that because I don't like relationships. I very much crave companionship. And it's just who I am naturally. But I think you lose the essence of who you are when you move from relationship to relationship to relationship with really no time in between to understand who you are. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. You have to live with who you are. And if you don't know who you are, if you don't know your flaws, if you don't know your strengths, if you don't know the things that make you really, really mad, the things that you can do with, the things that you can't do with, if you don't know the things that make you happy or make you feel ashamed, or if you don't know the power that's inside of you, you can't share that with somebody else. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Being single has made me incredibly confident. Now, I'm an introvert to begin with. Sometimes more an ambivert, I guess. I do. I'm an introvert with ambivert tendencies. But being single has made me confident in situations. It's made me it's helped me understand the things that are important to me, and I've become more adamant about those things. So for example, there are things in a relationship that might not have been as big as a deal breaker when I was younger, but now that I've been single for so long and I have talked to a couple guys or tried to begin relationships with a couple of guys, those things that once weren't that important to me are now incredibly important, because I'm getting to the point in my life where I could be married in 3 years, which, girl, that's a little scary. But that's just kind of where I am in my life right now. I'm at that age where a lot of my friends are getting engaged or getting married or starting relationships that could be their final. And it's important to me that I know who I am before I'm in a relationship, and that other person doesn't become my sole identity. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is talking to girls about that, to kind of not dissuade them, because I think it's a very natural thing for young girls to want to be in relationship after relationship after relationship, to be really interested in guys and things like that. But to help them understand the power of being single, to help them understand that when you're young, you don't need a boy to complete you. You don't need a boy to complete you. I know that's kind of the fantasy that's put out in all the Disney shows and everything. When you're growing up, and really at any point in your life, you don't need somebody else to complete you. And I don't really think you should start looking for a relationship. Don't look for one. Let it happen. Let yourself be just so, and I don't mean absorbed in the self-centered way, but so focused on your future. Maybe if you're in high school, don't look for a relationship. Let it happen. If it's going to happen, like if you become friends with somebody and oh my goodness, now it's a relationship, I think those are some of the most fulfilling relationships, because then you have a basis. But if you go searching for a relationship, and if you go searching for somebody to cling to, one, I'm a hopeless romantic, so like I like the spontaneity of relationships, of something not forced. And so I think it's really important to live your life not looking for something to complete you, or looking for something to be your saving grace, or if only I had a boyfriend kind of thing. And I watched Sleeping Beauty last night. I don't know if I've mentioned this on here yet or not. But I'm slowly writing a book. My goal is to have it ready to send to an editor by the time that I graduate college, or the year after. But it's a Sleeping Beauty story. And while I was watching the movie last night, I had this idea that you can want a Prince Charming. There is nothing in the world wrong with wanting a Prince Charming, but there is something wrong just sitting around waiting for them to come. Waiting for them to find you, waiting for them to save you. I do like the idea of a damsel in distress. Like I said, hopeless romantic over here. But you need to be able to be on your own. I want a Prince Charming, but I want to be able to save myself if necessary. I can't wait for the day when he comes riding on his steed and, like, takes my breath away. But I'm not gonna sit in a little corner waiting for him either. What's that Cheetah Girl song? I don't want to be Cinderella sitting in a cold, dark, dusty cellar waiting for somebody to come rescue me or something like that. Yeah. I want a Prince Charming, but I'm not gonna be a lazy simpleton waiting for him. And I think that that's also an important mentality to have. Like, it's okay to want somebody that fits your dreams, right? It's okay to long for that. But I think it becomes problematic when you let that longing become all-consuming. When you let your desire for somebody, when you let your longing for somebody who is yet to come into your life, when you when that becomes so much that you can't do anything else in your life, I think that's when that becomes a problem. Now, I have nothing wrong with dating, although I'm always of the mindset that date with the intention of marriage. Don't date just to date, because I believe that your heart is too fragile of a thing to play around with. And if you date several people and you think that, okay, I could pursue this for the rest of my life, and it just doesn't happen, well, then that's okay, because I think you had the right intentions. For example, I thought that I was going to marry the guy that I was dating in high school. And I think because of the pressure to have that happen, it failed, but it failed for other reasons. And then the next guy that I dated, I thought that was going to be it. But then, for a whole host of other reasons, it wasn't. But I always date with the intention of, I'm not dating just to date. I'm not going to throw my heart around like that. I'm dating because my ultimatum is marriage. But I have a cousin who has dated multiple times. And I don't think she does it because she's being willy-nilly or anything. It's just who she is. And I think if she falls into a relationship, if it is an accidental, spontaneous, beautiful thing, well, then that's fine. But I have issues with girls who go around from relationship to relationship, forcing whatever, but they just do it just to do it. Does that kind of make sense with what I'm saying? Like I said, this is just kind of rambling. And I'm going to let you in on a secret, and that's kind of where these thoughts are stemming from. And if you do follow my blog, not the latest, but the post before that, kind of follows the same pattern. But I am talking to a guy, and it makes me really happy. Happier than I've been in a long time. But I want to make it very clear right now, my romantic life will not be put online. I don't want to bring any other YouTuber into the mix, but I see a lot of nastiness and a lot of almost humiliation that happens when people put their romantic life on the internet, and then when it crumbles and falls, you have all of that out there. And also because I don't know you guys. I don't know anybody who's watching me. I don't know anything about you, and you really only know what I show you. And so I think you don't have the right to my private life. I don't even, like, if this guy and I were to begin a relationship, I would keep even pictures of us off of Facebook for a minimal, like, it would only be a couple of things. Like, if we had been dating for several months, then maybe I would put a picture up. And that's only if everybody else, at least family and friends, had met him and knew him, and this was something that I could see being long-lasting, even if it's not the final, if it's long enough lasting that it wouldn't be weird to have his pictures plastered all over my Facebook. And I'm not obsessive like that, I promise. But I don't like PDA, but I also don't like public internet displays of affection. Some of them are very, very cute and very sweet, but it's if it's all of the time, it becomes obnoxious. And that's just not who I am. I like beautiful things to be kept simple. And so when I do begin a relationship, I'm not going to post about it right away. Because I like to have a little secret to myself. I mean, of course my family would know. But some friends on Facebook might not for a while. And I think that's okay. Some people on Facebook might not even know about it until if it gets this far, if it becomes an engagement, you know. So like things like that, I kind of like to keep secret. And then this kind of brings me to the big main point of where all of these thoughts stem from. The kind of thought that I had while I was doing other things this morning. But I'm transferring schools in the fall, so I'll be starting at a new campus in August. And for a very long time, I thought that I would meet my husband at this college, for reasons none other than I had met him before, so I thought, okay, he has to be here. And as I started to talk to the guy that I'm talking to now, I thought, well, maybe this is just going to be a summer thing, and I'll actually meet the right guy at college. But the more that I talked to this guy, the more, well, and that's a whole other topic, this feels right. It feels good. But then it made me stop and think that, okay, if I'm still thinking about, well, let's hold off on this because what if I see him there? Do you know what I mean? Then I'm not ready to be in a relationship. If you have thoughts about, oh, I'm just going to do this now, and then once I get to college, see if somebody else is there, I think it's a problem when you are starting a relationship, and you think, well, this is only temporary. This is only for a problem, or this is only for a moment, and then I'm going to find somebody else, right? I think it's also, if you say, well, I want to hold out waiting and see if making whatever this relationship is official, because I'm going to see if at the next place that I'm going, or at the next event in my life, there's going to be somebody better there. If you have that mentality, you're not ready to date. You're not ready to put yourself in a committed relationship, because if you're always looking forward to the future, and not that that's a bad thing, but if you're always looking forward to the future as in, oh, what if there's another guy there or another girl? What if the right person is just down the road and I'm not being patient enough right now and I need to put whatever's going on now on hold because I don't want to be in the middle of a relationship and meet that person and be like, well, shoot. Now we have a problem. I don't know. That's just something I wrestle with, because for a while I thought that I wasn't going to meet anybody until I got to campus. And so to have met this guy, it kind of screws up the plan that I had. And it makes me think, well, okay, what if the person I'm supposed to date or be with now, I'm meeting now? And what if this is the person that's my end all? Right? But if this is the person I'm only going to date for a couple months, well, then that's what's going to happen, right? And then I feel like the person that you're supposed to meet, you will meet at the time that you're supposed to meet, in the situation that you're supposed to meet. And we don't have the power to change fate. Or, as a Christian, I don't have the power to change God's plan. I don't have the power to alter. I don't have the ability to affect or to change it. And so I think we need to stop worrying about situations where we can't control. We can't control anything in it, apart from our behavior and our understandings, and our thoughts about the situation. So, like, I'm incredibly happy talking to this guy, and I don't know what the future holds, so I should just embrace it right now. And if he's in my future for the long run, that's awesome. And if not, well, that will hurt when the time comes. That will really hurt when the time comes. But we can't change fate. And I think that's the thing with the relationships. I think a lot of people, particularly kids my age, they get so wrapped up in the idea of, oh, because I'm at the marrying age, I have to find somebody and get married, or whatever. And I think that's partly why the divorce rate is so high. Because people feel this need to give into the pressure to do something right away. And I take relationships very seriously. As I've said before, I don't get into them with just anybody. Like, I have a very set a list of expectations, and not that I'm being a stickler or anything. I value my heart, and I value my integrity and my dignity, and I value my future, and I'm not gonna just let any person into that. I was talking to my grandfather recently, and he's a man that's incredibly important to me, and he said, don't settle for Mr. Half Right. Wait, and if it's necessary, wait a long time for Mr. Right. And I said, no, I know, Grandpa. My expectations are very high, and I won't give them up. And he's like, good, don't. My expectations are high. My standards are incredibly high. My criteria are very high, and it's only after a guy has passed that list of expectations, standards, and criteria, and we've been able to have big conversations that provide satisfactory answers. Like, there are conversations that I need to have with the guy before I enter into a relationship with him, such as, do you have a porn addiction? What is the impact that religion has on your life? And you have to have the politics conversation. I'm sorry, but you have to. It's a pain in the butt to be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't agree with the same things that you do politically, or you just don't talk about it. But then I feel like that sets up a very maybe tense atmosphere, or it has the potential to, like PDA, intimacy. Like, these are conversations that you need to have before you can begin a relationship with somebody, and I need to have satisfactory answers. And if I don't, and if I feel like the answers from that aren't satisfactory or aren't something that we could come to terms with a compromise on, I don't pursue it. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I try to be as kind as possible, particularly in terms of relationship. If somebody is laying their heart out on their sleeve for me, I have to treat that with the utmost respect. And so I think when having those big conversations, and I'm realizing that it's not going to work, or it's not going to be right, so that's when you need to take a step back. And I think also in relationships, you need to evaluate what is truly important to you. I have a friend right now who a couple weeks ago was struggling really hard with his relationship. And that situation was complicated, and I think, given the fact that I'm not talking to a guy, I think maybe his situation is a little bit better, but I'm not sure. But anyway, and I had to ask him, what is important to you in this situation? I know you really like her, maybe even love her, the girl that you're with, but what's more important to you? Your mental health right now, or the fact that you might like her and don't want to hurt her feelings? And that's something that you have to weigh. That's something that, when I was struggling to get out of my most recent relationship, that I had to weigh. What's more important to me? My well-being, my future, my mental state, my emotional state, and my emotional needs that aren't being met, or not hurting somebody's feelings? I hope that you always pick yourself in that situation, because let me be very honest with you, okay? Getting up close and personal. You should always be the most important thing in a relationship. If your needs aren't being met, if you're not feeling satisfied, if you're not feeling fulfilled as much as you can in a relationship, that's a whole nother topic. If you're not feeling like this is a relationship that's good for you, you need to get out, because you have to live with yourself the rest of your life. And if you make a decision that hurts you because you don't want to hurt somebody else, oh honey, oh my goodness, no thank you, no, because you are beautiful and you are worthy and you are incredible of something better. And don't settle just because you like somebody. Don't settle just because you might love somebody. Don't settle, period. Don't settle until you find that person where you don't have to ask yourself that question. Because when you find that person, it's incredible. When you're looking for a relationship, or you're starting a relationship, or you're single, you need to think about yourself. And again, you're not being self-absorbed, you're self-centered in so doing, but you need to think about who you are. You need to think about what's important to you. And if other people get placed priority over you, in certain situations, that's fine. Like, I work with kids with special needs, so like, they're always above me when I'm helping them. But in terms of relationships, I'm always the priority. Not in terms of like, in the relationship, I gotta be spoiled, but in terms of emotional needs, and in terms of future, and in terms of how I'm feeling and how the other person is feeling. How, like, if I can see myself staying in this relationship, or if I can't and the other person can't, like, my needs need to be important. Of course, their needs need to be important to them, and your needs need to be important to you. But in like my own quiet mind and my own thoughts at night, I need to be important to me. Because if I'm not, that's a problem. I guess this big whole ramble is just kind of a reminder to think about yourself. But also remember that relationships are kind of serious because you're dealing with somebody's heart. You're dealing with somebody's emotions and their affections. And I remember the very first time, I think it was the day after Valentine's Day, my sophomore year of high school. The guy that I was dating, the guy that I thought I was going to marry, he and I was in a funk Valentine's Day. And that's a story, but because there's other people involved, I won't tell it online. And I was upset to the point where I had crawled in bed and was not crying, but was very, very emotionally distressed. And my dad knocked on the door and he said, I want you to know something. You need to treat guys' hearts with the utmost tenderness, because they don't show it to people very often, but when they show it to you, you need to be kind. And you need to treat it delicately and gently. And I mean, that's pretty much been true since then, and that's something that I hold to very often. That when a guy shares their heart with me, I'm privy to a part of their emotions that a lot of the world doesn't see. And so when I'm in a relationship with them, that's a serious thing. That is a beautifully serious thing. And you need to treat that gently. You need to treat it well. And you need to remember that it is a serious thing. And your future is a serious thing. I feel like so many people think that, oh, a relationship isn't a big deal. But really, it is. Because it could make or break your future, depending on the person that you're with. So, like, if you're dating a guy who's involved in drugs and alcohol, that could be a problem. If you're dating a guy who wants to marry you, each of these situations have a consequence. One's a negative, one's a positive. And I think, given the gravity of that and some of those consequences, you need to be really, I don't want to say picky, but you definitely need to think about your relationships and what they mean to you, and what you mean to you. And you just need to think about what does relationships mean to you? And I don't want to say it because I don't want it to sound like I'm being like a mentor or teacher or anything, but you need to think about what it means to you to be ready for a relationship. I mean, those are just my thoughts as I'm looking at a relationship in the future. So, sorry it's kind of rambled. It happens. Normally, scheduled activities should resume shortly. I'm just in a bit of a laziness funk. Sorry. Okay, I think that's all. Ciao for now.